Good morning, good evening, good nights. How are y'all doing? What's going on YouTube? Thank you for coming back to the channel. This is Aaron, Christatic AJ, as always. And I wanted to come on quickly, or as quick as it needs to be, and talk about righteousness and wickedness. So again, in case you didn't know, I have a particular Bible that I read from, Holman Christian Standard Bible. And so one of the excerpts out of this Bible that I really appreciate is the righteousness and wickedness section. Basically, it is a comparison using the book of Proverbs as a guideline, talking about righteousness and what the Proverbs say about that, as opposed to wickedness, and how Proverbs speaks to what wicked people gain in the end, and kind of how these compare. And so I just wanted to go through a few of these things. I'm basically going to be listing them off. I'm not really explaining too much. I'm just going to be listing what this section is talking about, and I want you guys to listen to how the Proverbs describes the righteous and the wicked, and if we see ourselves or see people we know in these categories. The outlook on life for these two groups. The righteous are hopeful, concerned about the welfare of God's creation, understand justice, and are showered with blessings, whereas the wicked are fearful. Even their kindness is cruel, don't understand justice, and are covered with violence. And so what I get from this, I'm not going to explain too much, is basically where the righteous are more concerned about the things of God, the things that are just, the things that are good. The wicked are more concerned about the world. They're more in tune with the fear that the world cultivates, and they're a lot more cruel, they're a lot more carnal in their approach to life, right? How they are seen by others. The righteous are favored. Behavior is upright. They are not to desire the company of godless people, and others are glad when they triumph. Whereas the wicked have a hard path. They lead others into sin. Their conduct is crooked, and they plot violence. So again, we're seeing that, basically the main difference between the righteous and the wicked are the foundation, their values, and what kind of power they ascribe to, whether it's the power of God and the values of God, or the powers of this world and the values of this world. And you can see the fruit of each of these showing up in some of these explanations. Quality of life. It says the righteous stand firm and are rescued by godliness, whereas the wicked are swept away and trapped by evil desires. And lastly, I want to talk about the eternal expectations and God's opinion of them. So for eternal expectations for the righteous, they are never shaken. They get a true reward. They find life, desire only good, and will stand firm. The wicked, however, will not remain, earn an empty wage, go to death, and only in wrath, and will be overthrown. So this is kind of getting into more of the eternal effects, the eternal outcomes of these lifestyles, kind of harkening into Revelation a little bit as well, in terms of the end times and what that's going to mean for God's sheep and then the goats who have rejected him. One is going to find strength and find true foundation and life in God, in Jesus Christ, and the others are going to find what the world offers in the end, which is a pursuit of the wind, as Ecclesiastes calls it, because the foundation was never solid enough to sustain them forever. The last one is God's opinion of them, and I think at this point we can kind of get a little idea of what's going to be said here. He delights in those who are blameless, and they have a refuge when they die, whereas the wicked, he detests those with twisted minds, and they are thrown down by sin. So not a big shocker here, but basically what this segment really talks about is based on Proverbs and based on the rest of Scripture. This, Scripture informs this piece as well. The righteous, those who are upright, those who are seeking the good, those who are seeking on the things of God ultimately will find hope, justice, strength, blessing because of who they put their faith in, who they put their hope in, and where they, find refuge. Whereas the wicked, because they find their refuge and they find their sustainability, if you will, in the world and what the world has to offer, the end goal, the end result is going to come down to who's going to offer you the most in the end, who's actually going to be here, who's going to win the battle for supremacy. And if you are a believer, you know that, in the end, the story's kind of been already written, that Jesus returns a second time, defeats death, hell, and the grave again, this time actually sending the enemy into the lake of fire, along with all those who take the mark of the beast, all type of stuff. Basically, he's coming back for his people, and those who reject him are going to find the reward that they earned, basically, in trusting in the world, and trusting in wickedness, and trusting in evil. The reward that they get is the reward that they're going to earn in rejecting Christ. And so I hope that this gave us a little bit of a maybe new knowledge if we didn't know some of these things or just did not articulate them, and maybe even a refresher of things that we knew, but just, it's cool to hear them said out loud. The main crux of this is that, Proverbs encourages and promotes righteous living over wicked living. Righteous living is obviously what Proverbs says is going to have eternal reward, whereas wickedness, while they may find some semblance of joy, some semblance of happiness or victory here in the moment, in the now, ultimately will have eternal consequences when Christ returns for his sheep. So I want to leave us with that. Hopefully it's not too much of a downer, but I do think that it's important to know that, in God's justice, there is not only reward, but there's also wrath. And prayerfully, we don't reject Christ. We accept him so that we can enjoy the new life that he has promised each and every one of his children. All right, that's the video. Prayerfully you enjoyed. If you want to see more, definitely subscribe, like it, all that type of good stuff. And until next time, peace and deuces. Have a good one.